Have you ever stopped to think that while many of us simply turn on the tap, farmers around the world face the daily challenge of ensuring that the available water is enough to sustain their crops while also preserving the environment? It may seem contradictory, but agriculture, which relies on nature, often contributes to its degradation. The most surprising part? It doesn't have to be this way. In fact, with the right practices, it's possible to produce more while preserving water resources. You might be wondering, but how is this possible, especially with climate change and the growing global demand for food? The answer is not just technical, it's strategic. Water conservation in agriculture is not a passing trend, but a necessity that can transform the relationship between farming and the environment. At the same time, it brings economic and social benefits that extend far beyond the fields. And yes, these practices are more within reach than you might think. Imagine a world where every drop counts, where farmers, both large and small, adopt methods that optimize water use without sacrificing productivity. Does it sound utopian? It's not. Today, more than ever, we have the tools, knowledge, and technologies to make this a reality. But what's at stake isn't just agricultural production. It's the future of our natural resources and, consequently, all forms of life that depend on them. Get ready for a journey of knowledge that will change your perspective on the role of water in agriculture. Together, we will explore how sustainable practices can not only preserve the planet's most precious resource, but also transform agriculture into a regenerative force. And the best part? You'll discover that you don't need to be an expert to understand and apply these concepts. If you think the solution is out of your reach, that only large-scale farmers have access to these technologies, or that water is guaranteed forever, it's time to challenge those beliefs. Change begins with information, and that's exactly what you're about to receive. Ready to get started? Water is the essence of life and the foundation of all agriculture. Imagine a farmer who relies on rainfall to irrigate their crops. When drought strikes, production plummets, and with it, the family's livelihood. This illustrates why water conservation in agriculture is vital, not only to keep water sources intact, but also to maintain the balance of hydrological cycles. Without wise management, we end up wasting a resource that in many places takes centuries to renew. For example, have you heard of farmers installing rainwater harvesting tanks? This simple practice not only protects natural resources, but also ensures water availability during times of scarcity. With a relatively small investment, these farmers create their own water security while helping reduce the pressure on local rivers and reservoirs. Now let's take another perspective: environmental impact. Excessive water withdrawal from natural sources can dry up springs, harm aquatic life, and destabilize entire ecosystems. This is more common than it seems, but such damage can be prevented through conservation practices, like irrigation systems that reduce water consumption without sacrificing productivity. Does it sound complicated? In reality, it's as simple as reviewing your household water bill to identify waste. When we think about sustainability, we also think about legacy. Imagine a farmer teaching their children the importance of water preservation. This is not just about taking care of the present. It's about paving the way for a future where the next generations can plant and harvest without fearing water scarcity. It's more than a practice. It's a philosophy that should be part of everyone's routine. The beauty of conservation lies in how it connects life. Protecting water is not just about agriculture. It's about keeping the cycle of life in motion. After all, what would the world be without the balance between production and nature? With this harmony in mind, we move on to the next point: how to increase agricultural efficiency while caring for every drop. Imagine a farm where every drop of water is directed straight to the roots of the plants, without waste. Does it sound like science fiction? In fact, this is exactly what systems like drip irrigation do. This practice not only improves water efficiency, but also ensures crops grow with the minimum necessary resources. When properly planned, Water conservation in agriculture becomes a cornerstone of sustainable productivity. A practical example? Think of small farmers using perforated hoses to irrigate their gardens. They save water, reduce costs, and achieve better harvests. This efficiency isn't exclusive to large farms. Anyone can implement it by adapting the technology to their context. Additionally, techniques like low-volume sprinklers allow even arid regions to succeed in cultivation. However, productive efficiency isn't just a matter of tools. It also involves proper crop planning. Planting varieties adapted to the local climate and soil can drastically reduce the need for irrigation. For instance, choosing drought-resistant crops in dry areas is a smart step that maximizes the return on the water used. It sounds simple, but it makes all the difference. Another crucial point is the continuous monitoring of water usage. Some farmers are using soil moisture sensors to identify exactly when to irrigate, avoiding both overwatering and underwatering. This not only saves resources, but also creates the ideal environment for plant growth. This kind of technological approach is truly a game changer, literally. Productive efficiency is like a synchronized dance between resources and results. Every well-calculated move reflects on the harvest and the responsible use of water. And when we think about efficiency, we cannot overlook an increasingly relevant factor: how to tackle the challenges of climate change, which constantly test our ability to adapt. Climate change is no longer a distant prediction. It is here, intensifying droughts, storms, and heat waves. In agriculture, these phenomena make water management even more critical. Water conservation in agriculture emerges as a strategic response to sustain production in the face of these challenges. Simple techniques like contour farming help retain soil moisture, reducing the need for irrigation during dry spells. For instance, imagine a farmer adopting agroforestry. This practice combines trees with agricultural crops, creating a microclimate that shields the soil from intense sunlight and preserves moisture for longer. Trees like pigeon pea or trumpet trees can be powerful allies, providing shade and helping combat the effects of extreme heat. Additionally, they act as natural barriers against strong winds, which also dry out the soil. Another key ally in combating climate change is the use of organic matter in the soil. Organic fertilizers, such as manure and compost, improve the soil's water retention capacity, making it more resilient. Think of this as a natural reservoir forming right at the plant's roots, available for times of greatest need. This type of management not only conserves water, but also reduces carbon emissions, creating a sustainable cycle. And if the climate is changing, our strategies must change too. Technologies like irrigation systems controlled by climate sensors help adjust the amount of water used automatically, depending on temperature, humidity, and wind conditions. These systems may seem complex, but they are already being implemented on small farms, thanks to funding programs and government incentives. Resilience to climate change is directly linked to smart resource management. After all, facing periods of drought or excessive rain requires creativity and planning. And as we seek these solutions, the focus broadens to another major challenge: protecting the soil and its ability to sustain life. The soil is the heart of agriculture, but without water, it becomes fragile, vulnerable to erosion and salinization. Poor water management acts like an invisible blade, gradually cutting away the soil's ability to sustain life. This is why water conservation in agriculture is also a strategy to protect soil fertility. Imagine a field covered with straw or pruned plant remains. This layer shields the soil from the direct impact of rain and sunlight, helping to retain moisture and prevent compaction. Practices like no-till farming are another powerful example. Instead of plowing the land, the farmer plants directly on the residues of the previous crop. This not only conserves moisture, but also prevents wind and water from carrying away nutrients. It's a simple technique that transforms fragile fields into productive lands for years to come, a small effort with a huge return. Another aspect that deserves attention is salinization, caused by excessive irrigation in arid regions. Imagine soil filled with salt crystals that prevent plants from absorbing water. The solution? Careful irrigation management with precise volumes and well-planned frequencies. Efficient drainage systems also help mitigate this problem, ensuring excess salts are washed away before causing harm. Vegetative cover, in addition to being a physical barrier, acts like a sponge that absorbs and retains water for longer. Cover crops like pigeon pea or forage radish are excellent options to enrich the soil while protecting its structure. These plants not only aid in water management, but also enhance the soil with organic matter and nutrients. Caring for the soil is, in fact, caring for the entire productive chain. The relationship between water and land is so intimate that any neglect of one directly impacts the other. And as we focus on the soil, another critical question arises. How can we reduce costs and make water conservation an economically viable practice? Caring for water is not just an environmental issue, it's also a smart strategy for saving money. Water conservation in agriculture reduces operational costs, especially those related to energy and irrigation systems. Consider a farmer who replaces old sprinklers with an efficient drip irrigation system. Despite the initial investment, the long-term savings in energy and water are so significant that the system pays for itself within a few years. Additionally, sustainable practices like rainwater harvesting offer an affordable and accessible alternative. Installing cisterns to collect water directly from the roofs of barns or greenhouses is a practical and economical solution. This water can be used for irrigation or even for cleaning equipment, reducing dependence on external sources and, consequently, lowering monthly bills. There are also opportunities in the sustainability certification market. Agricultural products grown using water conservation practices can earn labels that add value to the product, opening doors to niche markets. Imagine a farmer selling their vegetables to supermarkets that prioritize sustainable suppliers. This type of competitive edge can transform the economics of a rural property. Another way to reduce costs is by decreasing the use of chemical fertilizers through practices that preserve soil moisture and nutrients. Composting, for instance, enhances soil quality without the need for expensive industrial products. Moreover, adopting techniques like integrated pest management reduces the need for pesticides, which also account for a significant portion of the budget. In the end, saving water also means saving resources overall. When farmers begin to recognize the financial benefits, conservation shifts from being viewed as a cost to being seen as an opportunity. And while their wallets benefit, the positive impacts extend beyond the farms, directly contributing to the protection of biodiversity. Biodiversity is like a symphony. Each species plays a unique role in maintaining the balance of the ecosystem. When agriculture uses water irresponsibly, it disrupts this harmony, harming both aquatic and terrestrial ecosystems. Water conservation in agriculture prevents such impacts, protecting natural habitats and the species that depend on them. Imagine rivers drying up due to excessive water extraction for irrigation. With sustainable practices, this scenario can be avoided, ensuring that fish, birds, and insects maintain their life cycles. A clear example is the implementation of buffer zones around agricultural areas. These strips of native vegetation help filter excess nutrients and sediments before they reach rivers and lakes. It's a simple solution that protects water quality and aquatic habitats. Farmers who adopt these practices not only conserve biodiversity, but also keep their water sources clean and productive. Another crucial point is the impact of excessive irrigation on wetlands. These areas, often called the nurseries of life, are essential for the reproduction of various species. By adopting more efficient irrigation systems, such as drip irrigation, it is possible to reduce pressure on these ecosystems. This approach, in addition to being cost-effective, is a powerful way to protect rare and endangered species. Biodiversity also finds allies in crop rotation. Alternating the species cultivated throughout the year helps maintain soil balance, reduces pest proliferation, and increases the resilience of the agricultural system. Moreover, by planting local varieties, farmers contribute to preserving native seeds, which are often tied to the culture and history of the region. Protecting biodiversity is not just an act of altruism. It's a smart strategy to ensure the sustainability of agriculture. After all, a healthy environment sustains agricultural production in the long term. But for all of this to work, it's essential to understand the specific practices that make water conservation a tangible reality in daily life. When it comes to conserving water in agriculture, the key lies in adopting smart practices that combine technology and tradition. One such practice is crop rotation, which not only improves water retention in the soil, but also reduces the incidence of pests and diseases. For instance, alternating corn with legumes like pigeon pea helps the soil retain more moisture while enriching it with nutrients. It's a simple, accessible strategy for any farmer. Another effective method is the use of modern irrigation technologies. Systems like drip irrigation and low-volume sprinklers ensure that every drop of water reaches exactly where it's needed. Basic kits are available for small gardens, while more robust versions cater to larger farms. Investing in these technologies might seem costly initially, but the savings and productivity gains quickly outweigh the expense. Rainwater harvesting is another sustainable and economical solution. Installing gutters and cisterns to collect and store rainwater provides farmers with an alternative source for irrigation during dry periods. This practice is especially beneficial in regions where water supply is irregular, and it helps reduce pressure on natural water sources. Proper soil management is also part of the equation. Practices like organic fertilization, vegetative cover, and no-till farming help retain soil moisture for longer, reducing the need for frequent irrigation. It's like creating a natural reservoir within the soil, benefiting both the plants and the surrounding ecosystem. These practices aren't just beautiful theories. They're actionable steps that transform agriculture and the relationship with water resources. Implementing one or several of these techniques is like planting seeds of sustainability for the future. And by doing so, farmers not only preserve water, but also reap environmental, economic, and social benefits that extend far beyond their own land. Now that you understand the impact and practical solutions for water conservation in agriculture, the question is, what can you start doing today to contribute to this transformation? Even small changes can yield incredible results, whether by implementing simple practices like soil management or exploring more advanced technologies. The important thing to remember is that every drop saved is one more step towards more sustainable agriculture. Can you imagine how revolutionary it would be if every farmer adopted at least one of these techniques? What could prevent rivers from drying up, ecosystems from being destroyed, and crops from facing water crises? Change starts with a decision, and yours could be the starting point for a significant impact, both on the environment and the economy of your production. So, what will your next step be? How about sharing these ideas with your community, seeking more knowledge about sustainable practices, or even implementing small actions in your field or garden? Water conservation is a commitment that benefits everyone, and you have the opportunity to be an inspiring example for others. Did you enjoy what you learned here? Subscribe to the channel, activate notifications, and stay updated with more content like this. Together, we can transform the way we produce food and care for our planet. Don't wait for tomorrow to start making a change today. Coming up next is a video about the 10 most serious problems with conventional agriculture. See you soon. Let's move towards a bountiful earth.